This feels like a day late April Fool's joke. Since Nintendo's Direct was probably the #1 trending video yesterday, like it often is, I'm guessing you've seen it. A lot of things that I predicted on this channel did come true. Street Fighter 6, Final Fantasy 7, Sakurai working on a game that wasn't Smash. All that stuff in Mario Kart and Donkey Kong, it's all very exciting, but it was only until after that my excitement level crashed like Donkey Kong's fists into solid rock. Because during that hour, Nintendo conveniently left out the prices that they're going to be charging for the system, and the games, and the camera, and the Pro Controller, and the screw job that they're pulling on you and everybody else who wants their product. And for those of you who are worried that games were going to be $70 in the future, well, good news! We're not going to be charged $70 for a single game. No, instead, for a single game, us here in the US will be charged $80 to $90. Are you kidding me? That's a 50% increase. I thought the people who said that the console was coming in June were kinda nuts. That's a little soon to me. It seemed like they'd rather release it during Christmas time. But Nintendo really did just say, hey, hope you're going to be able to save $600 in 2 months in this economy. And a lot of people are blaming the tariffs for this. Look, I'm not an economist. I don't know. Maybe they're to blame, maybe not. I just feel like we can probably look at the prices around the globe and compare and contrast and pretty easily confirm or deny whether or not that's true. But finger pointing, that's for another time, and it's not going to make the games cheaper. The price is going to be $80 for a digital download and $90 whole for a physical cartridge like this. And there's never been that disparity before, at least I don't think so. It's always been the same price for both. And you're not even getting a physical game. It's more of a hall pass to digital because some of the games won't be on the cart. And this is after they said that they were going to keep supporting tangible games. They're over here teasing us that we're going to get something physical and then never letting us have it, like we're a bunch of nerds on prom night. And I don't know, I actually believed them when they said that they were going to keep supporting physical games, because I thought that Nintendo would want to keep producing physical games because of the type of games that they keep putting on their schedule to release. A lot of their biggest releases that they plan their calendar around are remakes of their old games. Skyward Sword HD, Pikmin 1, 2, and 3. And if they want to keep doing that, they have to let us buy physical copies of those games. I'm not going to buy Paper Mario 1,000 Year Door again because I've already got a physical copy on the GameCube. I could just play that. This pricing is a weird decision because in the gaming industry, Nintendo is clearly on top right now. So much so that they've got Sony and Microsoft making games for their platform. And you even have some gaming news sites reporting that PlayStation and Xbox are getting close to calling it quits. I don't know how true that is, but they are reporting that. So when the company is on the cusp of making their biggest rivals follow in Sega's footsteps, you have to ask yourself why they wouldn't just play the long game and make themselves the most appealing product until the competition folds at least. You have to ask, what's the logic behind going down this route? Because, yeah, it could just be pure greed, but I really don't think Nintendo is thinking with their gut. I think they're a little bit smarter than that. They're a little more clever. I do have a few theories. So, first, I think they're doing this because they know how popular they are. And, of course, they want their new console to be an unfathomable success, but they really just want to avoid another PlayStation 5 situation. Manufacturing these products, they are complicated, and that takes time. And that's not even considering all the complicated geopolitics that's surrounding lithium that powers all of our devices like cell phones and gaming consoles. Yeah, it's lithium. Lithium is the culprit. And I can't help but feel that if we just studied the periodic table like our middle school teachers wanted us to, none of this would have happened. So rather than pissing them off by making them wait, Nintendo is making a move so that supply can keep up with demand. Not the brightest move to make people less mad, in my opinion, because we're way angrier at the price than we would ever be at not getting our new toy right away, but it is what it is, and I see the flawed logic to it. The more likely reason they might be doing this, it's a business tactic as old as time. The industry wants to charge $70 for games. We've been loudly complaining that that's too much. So how does the industry get away with charging $70 for games? You create a 50% price increase. All your customers get outraged, which you need them to feel, and then after a few months, you come out and say you're lowering the price. And then all those people that were so mad, they calm down and they start to see the new norm as a compromise. Well, it's $70. It's at least it's not $90. Happens pretty frequently. The effect on our wallets is bad enough, but this move could potentially have other repercussions within the gaming industry. So the first thing that I feel might happen is if games are going to be sold at these prices, I see the trend being that almost all games from now on are going to be 75 hours long or longer, just long games in general. And a lot of gamers have said they want their games to be that long because their dollar goes further, and this price change is kind of making that argument look pretty good. I personally have never been on that side of the fence. I don't really like long games, usually. Breath of the Wild is one of my favorite games, but Tears of the Kingdom, it had too much gathering stuff and opening menus for me, and I don't really want that to get in the way of me going on adventures. Most long games, they have a lot of filler, and sometimes I only have like half an hour to myself, and I want to get to have fun within that time. And longer games tend to have a lot of tedious stuff, menial stuff that would get in the way of me having fun. And I don't like menial tasks. I do them at work, where I get paid for doing that at least. Not enough to buy video games, apparently. Regardless, 15 to 30 hours for me is the time I prefer to spend on most adventures. Now, the other bad trend that I see on the horizon, it might turn the gaming industry into something that's, for lack of a better word, elitist. Now, currently, video games are enjoyed by people of all walks of life, both lower and upper class. That could change as the common person finds the hobby to no longer be affordable. Now, there's always been forms of entertainment that were accessible mostly for the rich, like opera or Broadway plays. But at some point, the masses, we want to be entertained too, so movie theaters were introduced, and they gave us regular folks a way of going out to be entertained. But, you've seen movie ticket prices now, and most people with families, they aren't willing to spend $100 for 2 hours of entertainment. At least not regularly. So movie theaters, they're kind of becoming more of a special occasion unless you're affluent. And I feel like this pricing move with gaming, it puts the industry, or this form of entertainment, I should say, to be on track to be like that. Soon there might come a day where streamers are basically just like influencers, and their whole shtick is showing off a bunch of stuff that most of us will never have access to, and the rest of us are outside looking in. I'll never afford that house. Well, at least I can build one in Animal Crossing. Oh, wait. These changes are branches off a larger root, which is, I often find myself feeling not welcome within the gaming space. And that is because of multiple factors, but I don't know, there's just things getting in the way of me enjoying gaming these days. And it's not just the price gouging, there's also how all the characters I've loved as a kid are being changed. With that Donkey Kong redesign, he's making all these goofy faces, and I don't know, it's just a lot. And on top of that, you had all these Mario characters getting new voices that don't fit. I'm not trying to be a dick, but the Mario's voice actor, he doesn't sound enough like him. I'm sorry, he just doesn't. Yeah, I get that people get older and maybe Charles Martinet can't do it anymore because, Simpsons and South Park, they've been doing it for 25 years also, and you can since the changes in their voice boxes, but I feel like we can do a little better than what we've got. And it also doesn't really seem to make sense why they're like changing all the characters, even ones that aren't voiced by Charles Martinet. It's a little weird to me. And also, every game is just poised to become way too long and overly social. Like, I just want to race in this next Mario Kart game, but it seems like they're building it around sharing and social media type stuff. I didn't grow up with a lot of friends, so for me, playing video games was mostly a solo experience. And, it is what it is. Maybe it would have been better if I was with friends, maybe not, but, you know, I'm just considering how on track this generation is to become even more isolated than I was. So I'm just, a little worried for them. It's going to be worse for them in that regard. So please give us games that we can still enjoy by ourselves. Like, can't there just be something that's still for me? Because all the things that I love, like movies and Star Wars and comedy, have been making me feel very neglected lately. And that sucks, because can't there just be something that's still for me? I mean, I don't mean just for me, it's just don't make me feel like I'm an irrelevant human being, is the thing. We toss around words like inclusive, but then we do things that divide us. And it shouldn't be like that. And I'm not saying the industry shouldn't follow trends like open world games or incorporate new features into gameplay. They should. They have to. But I just feel like if the change is that drastic, maybe just create new properties for people to find, and the people who want those things will seek them out and become fans of that. And let the old guard have the same experience that they're used to. Like, I don't get mad at Fortnite because Fortnite is its own thing. People that want to have fun at Fortnite, they can just go off and play Fortnite, and the rest of us can still have our stuff elsewhere. I know I'm probably sounding a little old man yells at cloud in this video, or perhaps somebody in the comment section is going to call me a brokey or something like that. Probably somebody who thinks that they're going to one day win the lottery and therefore is better than me, even though they got their riches from winning them rather than building a business. Please understand though, there's no need for that, and I have no ill will towards Nintendo. I'm still a huge Nintendo fan. I'm just disappointed and discouraged. I've always been a hardcore fan. When the GameCube released, I got up early to wait in line, and my grandparents, they waited in line at another store just to get me, and they were the first in line, and I was so happy that Christmas when they got it for me. When the Wii released, I waited overnight online again. This time, there were 30 consoles in the store, and I was number 30 in line, and I was so happy when I got that console in my hand. So understand that normally in the past, I've got my consoles right away when I could. This time, it doesn't look like that's going to be the case. For Switch 2, unfortunately, I'm going to have to wait for things to improve. Now, the silver lining here is that I do have a huge backlog of games, and I went all out for the original Switch. I've got so many just games from Nintendo, games that I didn't get to play in the past, indie games. It's the most games that I've ever owned on any console, and it's not even close. So there's enough physical games in my collection that I probably have enough games that I could be entertained for the rest of my life, if we're being honest. I don't think I'm ever going to go through all of my games within my lifetime. Not the worst problem to have, if we're being honest. There's a huge percentage of gamers that don't finish their games. I pretty much, once I start a game, feel like I have to finish it, so that's not me. And perhaps this now is, a little opportunity for me to take the lemons that Nintendo's giving me and squeeze them into lemonade, by going through my massive library. Let me be clear, the console price, okay, whatever. It's a one-time purchase, so if it's a little expensive, whatever. It's the games. That's the price that's bothering me. That's too much. And here's the thing. I'm actually okay with games being sold for that price if they're complete games. Because, if we're being honest, games are already that price. Essentially, I mean, Smash Ultimate, that game was $60, but really, if you wanted all the characters, it was, I think, $120 once everything was done. And that's not even counting the amiibo, which my best friend, he got two of every amiibo. So he spent thousands of dollars on just one game. Most people, they're not as psycho as my friend, but we probably are willing to pay $90 if the game at launch has all its content, isn't glitchy, and we physically own it. But sadly, it doesn't look like that's going to be the case. Um, you know, it sucks, but let me know what you guys think. Are you still going to buy a system and pay for these games? Do you think this situation will end up causing more people to sail the high seas? Do you think that not owning games will have other repercussions, like causing gamers to say, ah, fuck it, and then in the future, once AI is just really good, just have them recreate games in AI but to their liking with little tweaks so that, I don't know, they have extra lives or, I don't know, whatever that they can do. Just let me know in the comments section down below. And also, as a bonus, let me just remind you that if you own the latest Zelda games, Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, and you were planning on upgrading them to the Switch 2 versions, just don't be a player that exploits glitches like the multiple items glitch, because very likely you will not be able to do that during the upgraded versions. So, thank you for watching.